The journey of 1,000 miles begins with only the first step. Make your journey into a passage of endless possibilities. We were all born as blank canvases. So what's important is that we paint ourselves with that mental stimulation to do and to feel something great. Finding your inner power, embracing the hugs and kisses of nature. How do you smile through your adversities? How do you defy your odds? Let's uncover. Ridding ourselves of fear and standing in our purpose. We are spiraling gold from rubble. This is Level Up. Let us go places.
From Western Jamaica, Hanover to be specific, a past student of Raci's high school pivoted his way to the top. It was the humanitarian in him that fueled his mission to create value from wasted food. Smart, positive, and personable, hence, he was able to land some long-lasting relationships. He is what we call a true advocate for immigrant entrepreneurs. Jay Blake, founder of Just Chill International, discovered the Jamaican wild breadfruit and, through partnership, was able to secure 350,000 US dollars of medical supplies for hospitals in Jamaica. Today, his breadfruit chips and pancake mix are widely distributed across the United States of America. Find out more about his breadfruitful journey on JQue.MediaHouse, live Tuesday, March 22nd. Jay Blake tells us how he leveled up. From Western Jamaica, Hanover to be specific, a past student of Raci's high school pivoted his way to the top. It was the humanitarian in him that fueled his mission to create value from wasted food. Smart, positive, and personable, hence, he was able to land some long-lasting relationships. He is what we call a true advocate for immigrant entrepreneurs. Jay Blake, founder of Just Chill International, discovered the Jamaican wild breadfruit and, through partnership, was able to secure 350,000 US dollars of medical supplies for hospitals in Jamaica. Today, his breadfruit chips and pancake mix are widely distributed across the United States of America. Find out more about his breadfruitful journey on JQue.MediaHouse, live Tuesday, March 22nd. Jay Blake tells us how he leveled up. Welcome to all our viewers. Special welcome to those of you who are joining us from our Facebook pages, Real Nimby and JQue Media House. This show is brought to you by Eagle Eye Records, Six Side Entertainment, Ciros, and Ivo Places LLC. I'm your host, Nataki Teshmari. Tonight we have with us Jay Blake, the founder of Just Chill International. He's from Western Hanover and has pivoted his way to the top. He set out on a mission to create value from wasted food, and in doing so, he discovered the Jamaican wild breadfruit. Jay Blake shares with us his story tonight. Hi Jay, how are you?
I am doing pretty well. Thanks for having me, Nakati. I really appreciate your time here and bringing me on.
Yeah, it's a pleasure having you with us tonight. I cannot say how much I'm honored to have you. I know you're a very busy businessman, and the fact that you took the time out to meet with me tonight, I cannot thank you enough again. I am honored to have you here with us tonight. One of
Thank
the
you.
first things I want to ask you, because I've met you, I've seen you on social media, I've seen you doing your thing, so I see a little bit of the business side. But who are you really?
Yeah, that's a good question. I hear a lot that folks are like, oh, we see you, we see you're active, we see you doing these different things, but like, who are you? Uh, Me, really, I guess I could describe myself as just a country youth from Jamaica. And top of that, since an early age, I mean, I went to high school in Racines, in Hanover, and from there went on to Montego Bay Community College, where I studied engineering, and from engineering there I went up to University of Technology, and eventually transferred over to Montana State, where I completed my engineering undergrad in mechanical engineering with some aerospace, and then from there I completed my graduate studies in industrial and management engineering. So those are just some of the components. Grew up in a loving family in Jamaica. We just had to figure out ways how to get things done, because like most of us growing up in Jamaica, we didn't grow up in a massive abundance. But one thing I can say is, like, I grew up in a loving home, and we were just able to work through things together, and that kind of helped to bolster my self-confidence. And through that self-confidence, I've just been able to try new things, and
Understand.
some work, some hasn't.
Well, I can definitely understand. And you know what? I read your biography, and you mentioned that, even as a child, it was painful to watch leftovers go to waste. And you also mentioned that it was painful to see the levels of unemployment nationwide and all that. How were you able to process such information as a child? Am I right to think that you were always smart?
Um, I wouldn't. I don't know if I would use the term smart. I think the term curious. I like the term
Okay.
curious.
Okay.
But I've always been a very curious person, and it was interesting. I remember as a kid one time, I read the newspaper and I saw just like someone who they said the police had gone down because there were like illicit activities, and I thought to myself, like, oh my god, like, this person looks like any one of my friends.
Wow.
It could be anyone. And so I thought, in the back of my mind, it started had me thinking, like, why is it that we're killing one another? Why is it that we feel like there's not enough in this world? And why is it that we feel like we have to, like, fight each other or get rid of each other to really survive in this world? And so those things kind of had me thinking and that was when I was like 10 or
Wow.
11. And so from there, and I start actually like figuring out, like, wait, there are ways I can focus on the positive side. There are things that I have at my disposal that I can figure out how to navigate and how to use these things to move me forward. And I started realizing, like, early on, like, a lot of what we were undertaking, a lot of the problems we had weren't necessarily a resource problem. In sense, it was more of a systematic problem. So, for example, like, you look at breadfruit and you see something like that going to waste, and you're like, oh my God, people are like, you can't afford food, and you start to think to yourself, like, wait, but there's food here going to waste. So how can we not afford food if it's sitting here going to waste? And so from a tender age, I started thinking. I've always been the creative type, the curious type, creating, making, fixing the CD player when it's broken, fixing the fan when it's broken, like stuff like that. And so I just figured out from an early age, like, the way to move forward and to do anything is not to wait around wishing for something, um, but instead try to find out what is at your disposal and what can be used to get to that stage that you're trying to get to. In
So,
addition to that, right, in addition to that, the one next thing that I learned pretty early on, is that with everything that happens, you can either look at it as if it's a roadblock or it's a stepping stone. And that's what I ask myself almost every time I run into some kind of obstacle. Is this going to be a roadblock, or is it going to be a stepping stone?
wow. Some very powerful statements there, Jay, and some powerful questions that you've asked yourself growing up. Now, that would explain, why you were able to get to where you are today, because these are mindsets that you have pretty much practiced since you were a child, doing so for more than 20 years. I can imagine that you're almost perfect at being positive in everything that you do, just the way you look at things. Is this an obstacle or is it a stepping stone? I like that. Thank you for bringing that to the show tonight. But I'm going to ask
Most
an
definitely.
obvious
Oh,
question.
mhm.
I know you said you've always been curious. Why breadfruit?
Well, I think so. So the way I look at things very systematic, right? And so I could say, okay, plantain chips has already been created, and let's say there's a lot of plantain chips that need to be created to be done. But if you go out and create plantain chips, then now you're gonna have to overcome all that noise that's there in saying like you're now a new product and you have to figure out a whole new value proposition as to why your plantain chips is better than everybody else. But you look at a thing like breadfruit, and there's no ambassador of breadfruit, right? At least, I mean, Chichen Ching was probably the closest thing to an ambassador for breadfruit. But then if I can pick up breadfruit and I can see it's going to waste, I can add value to it, and I can bring that into the rooms that I stand in, that I sit. And when someone invite me to somewhere, I can show up with a breadfruit or a bag of breadfruit chips or something. Like it already creates in itself a unique value proposition because I was one of the only ones doing it. Um, and again, it's like my job as a CEO or as a founder or as like a creator is to align my abilities in a sense with what I need to get to my vision. And so I'm not gonna be able to spend ads with something like a plantain chips where you have major companies in that space, or sweet potato chips where you have major companies in that space. But guess what? I don't have to outspend ads with anyone with breadfruit chips.
Well, I can I can definitely understand where you're coming from with that. But because to be honest, I'm a lover of breadfruit. I loved fried breadfruit.
Yeah.
I grew up eating a lot of that and I loved it. So when I first came across your product, I'm not gonna lie, I was both shocked, impressed, I was inspired all at once. And I thought to myself, wow, this is nice. I've never thought that we would see our Jamaican breadfruit in a pack, in a nicely packaged, nicely packaged on our shelves here in the United States, selling just like any other potato chips. And I thought to myself, I have to speak with you. I have to find out what you were thinking, what inspired you to do this, And I wanted to use a time out to congratulating you as well on establishing your business as well. And one of the other things I wanted to mention, I read a story where, before I get there, let me ask you this. Did you start by doing a couple chips in your pot at home on your stove top, and then maybe having your relatives try this? Did you share the ideas with anyone, any close friends, relatives, and what were their responses like?
Well, and that's a great question. Thanks for asking. Yeah, so that I did actually share initial batches, with after chips. Because first when I thought of, because really how the thought came about of the chips in essence was, I was watching this show and it talked about how potato chips came about. And so it just like stuck in my head that evening, and so like I just like made a call then and say, hey, is there a way we can try to like slice some breadfruit really thin, give it a try? And I actually picked it up, that those samples that were made about 3 weeks later. I was in Florida and I went ahead and picked up those samples and brought them back with me. And even then it had different people trying it. Like, I remember going to the tourist board office. I, had a meeting there and went into the tourist board office and they were like, oh my God, this thing is great, and we also had some ackee dips and some more stuff like that too that we were like doing it with. Um, so I found out pretty early, like the ackee dip was not really the space to kind of get because it was just so much harder to stay
Yeah.
good. Um, but the feedback was just like awesome. And then I brought it back here to Denver and was just like, just started going around and asking people like, hey, I got this thing, breadfruit chips. Like, what do you think about it? And I would go to and I signed up for all these like different events in the food
Oh,
space and just like had people try like small samples of it. And then and I would say 90%, 90 to 95% of people who tried it were just like, oh my God, this thing is great. You should patent the name, because they never know breadfruit. They never heard about
yeah.
breadfruit. And so I was like, yeah, it could be cool to patent the name, but it's actually a fruit. So I can't
Yeah.
copy that.
I've had my own experiences too, having to explain what breadfruit is,
Yeah.
so I can imagine how that went down.
Yeah.
But I read a story that led me to believe that you started in pharma uh, with some friends. Am I right to believe that that's the case?
Uh, so I started a company. Like I was the original founder of the company. I was also working on another project in Jamaica, um, where we were setting up a facility in Jamaica, and so it kind of mixed together at that point in time,
Yeah.
when we were trying to like get this shipped out, and then like that eventually became the area that I was using to do a lot of the shipment of the fruit out of the island. Um, and so kind of built on that. But in terms of the brand Just Chill itself,
Yeah.
that started out while we were at UTech. We actually were like pretty much promoting like a party. Like we wanted to get into party promotion. One summer, actually, what actually happened was I had my birthday, and my birthday is in February, and so we had this birthday party. No, actually no. So we had this Christmas event where we had like this rapper style thing that we wanted to do. I guess I don't know, kids at that time, and so we rented this villa, invited some of our girl like friends that are girls over, and and we all just like had like this bunch of liquor and like at this villa and like having this great time and kind of scenario. So we had like 2 or 3 nights or a weekend or so at the villa with this bunch of alcohol and just having a great time. So then after that, we heard the feedback on the street was like, yeah, the place was so nice, but the place didn't have much vibes, because I guess we invited way more girls than there were guys, so maybe there was also like level of competition. And so we are like, what? Like, you can't say Chris, and Javian and Anduin don't put on the best things ever. So we are
Yeah.
like, you know what? My birthday is coming up, and this time we're gonna show them like we know what to do. And so we went out and we were like, okay, now we're gonna promote this like into a real party. We got DJ Kentucky on the show this time. We got Crazy
Oh,
Dog on the show. We got I don't remember, we had some more DJs on the show that night too. And so from there we were just like, yo, we're gonna make this the raddest party ever. And that was like Just Chill. We were like, Just Chill is putting on this party. And I still have the flyer from like that's what like 2009 or something. And I still have like one of those little flyers. And so we put on this party, and the place, like, we literally created pool parties in Western Jamaica with that event.
really?
And it was wild. I mean, and so that's kind of like where Just Chill came about, and some people started knowing about Just Chill. And so yeah, that's kind of how that got created.
So it was like a birthday gift to you, in a sense.
In a sense, but it was more like us and our egos, proving ourselves like, we know we know what we do, like you can't say the party wasn't good. And that one, no one said the party wasn't good. That party was great,
So you're telling me that I may have heard about Just Chill because of your pool parties that you kept in Western Jamaica.
Pretty much that's the original that's the original concept. And then Just Chill International, now I started doing some events over here in the States. And we, for one time, we were working with DJ Kentucky, and we did a few shows in different in a couple tours, a few states across, New York we were in, and I think some more, I think Arizona and stuff like that. So we did a little bit of those shows as well. And then the food came around. We did a food event, and that's kind of like where the idea started like drifting towards food, with breadfruit. I already had the breadfruit thoughts in mind, but that's kind of like how it drifted into like now like a packaged food kind
Yeah.
of
Yes.
concept and branding.
But it's pretty soothing for the breadfruit chips, I must say. I wouldn't have imagined that it's coming from, your parties to your packaged food. So it's pretty soothing. But
Yeah. Oh,
go
I,
ahead.
I I would say the similarities really are if you're doing a party, you have to be the loudest voice to let people know what's going on.
True.
Promotion,
I give you that.
promotion, promotion. And I would say with breadfruit chips or pancakes or whatever else this grows into becoming, is literally having the ability or the confidence to walk around and tell people about. Like I was in California last week, and I literally spent about 3 days walking around meeting people, like highest from the highs, lowest to the lows, doesn't matter. Like I'm talking to the security guard, I am talking to the head of the show. I'm talking to everybody, and it's all about breadfruit, right? Like even if it's not only about breadfruit, but it's really all about breadfruit.
It's yes.
And so like, so many people in that show is the first time they've ever heard or even tried a breadfruit product. I'm talking, this is a big show. There was like 60,000 people in the show. And the first time they ever heard about the product or at least tried it, is from like this kind of experience. So I would say the similarities is really the ability to go out there and tell people about what you're doing.
You know, I give you that because it takes a lot of guts to appear to approach complete strangers. Tell them about a product that they've never heard about before. To introduce a product that you can't even imagine or predict what their responses are going to be like. So it
Yeah.
wants to sound to me like you have somewhere along the line overcame fear. And so was this a leap of faith for you, or did you just know that you're gonna do it?
I would say a little bit of both. Even in today, I wouldn't say I'm fearless. Some people would probably differ, like might believe that. But I wouldn't say I'm fearless. But I think I feel the fear and I do it anyway. And that's typically kind of how I go about getting things done. Because my thinking is, and I think Jeff Bezos said this before, which is like, if you look at something and if you think you're going to be regretting that several years from now, then maybe you should do it. And for me, I feel like if I feel like I would be regretting not trying this venture and not taking the steps necessary to establish this venture, then I should go ahead and give it a try. Um, and so I would say yes. So it's not just being fearless, but it's about like having the confidence in knowing that even if you're wrong, at least you stepped out and you tried something.
Right.
um, and that's
Right.
kind of how I view it. It's like, what's the upside? I guess we entrepreneur refer to it as asymmetric risk, which is what's the downside? Like if I'm going to lose $10,000 on this thing, but really and truly, if I really put in all my effort into it, I can really make it 10 million. Then cool, give me a shot at this. But
Yes.
if I'm going to put in $10 into this thing, and if I really put in all my energy and all the effort I possibly can, and it's only going to make me, $15,
So talk about losing, right? I noticed you started your breadfruit chips in 2019. That was pretty much, want to say maybe months before coronavirus. I mean, how did the impact of coronavirus? How did that affect you or your business? Or were you scared? Were you not worried that your investment was gonna be impacted in some way, shape, or form? How did you deal with that? How did you overcome that, knowing that your product is pretty much still new on the market?
that's a great question. And I think for every entrepreneur, are people trying out to do, unique things. That is always a big part of it. I would say for me, when the pandemic hit, like literally, so we technically started in 2019, but we just did like product development. We didn't have a package at all until 2020. So 2020 was literally the start. We did a launch event here with the World Trade Center. In 2020 March, and we were literally starting to do relationship to start production at a facility. And the pandemic hit literally right at that time when we were gonna be, start, because the plan originally was to start going out to facilities and start getting them to like, taste test and say, hey, here's this thing called breadfruit, give it a taste, see if you like it, purchase a bag. That was our initial concept. And then COVID hit and literally unraveled the entire concept around like taste testing.
Wow.
No one wants to take anything from you in the middle of COVID to taste
Wow.
test. Um, and so very quickly we had to figure out like, okay, we're gonna have to pivot to going online.
Wow.
And going online actually turned out to be pretty like very, very well for us, at least because what it did, it expanded our reach. And so we were just like this startup company, And at the same time, we're getting recognized in like, all these different states across the country, because we were able to start shipping products here and there to different parts of the country. And so people were able to try our product. Now, given it wasn't from a commercial standpoint, it wasn't necessarily like a very successful commercial
Right.
ability to do that. But what it did, it created for us this brand recognition around a product that we're literally the first in the entire mainland US to be doing.
Wow.
So we're like stamping our name in history while at the
Wow.
same time we're like trying to like pivot our way into like sustainability during the whole pandemic at
Right.
that point in time.
Right. And I mean, the pandemic has done some bad for some and it has done some good for others. It's all about how you see it, how you see your challenges, like you mentioned earlier, and pretty
Yeah.
much how you dealt with it. So, what could have been a nightmare for you, you took the time out to see how you can use it as a stepping stone
Mhm.
and used it to the best of your advantage, going online, spreading your wings even further away, and pretty much stamping your name in the industry by using the online platform. So it actually puts you further in a faster way than it would have done if you were to just depend on going door to door. So
Mhm.
thank you for sharing that. I know also you were concerned as a child about unemployment rates, but look at you today, you're able to create jobs. How do you feel about that?
While I was going through college, one of the things when people ask me what I want to do is like I wanted to create jobs. I want to create. I want people. So I have this fairy tale concept of like I like living in the concept of abundance, and I want people to experience what that's like to like live in a feeling of abundance. Um, and so in a even in a simple thing of just like being able to create jobs and hopefully to create more jobs and hopefully help those jobs to create other jobs, that to me feels very fulfilling as something like even days when it just feels like is it something you want to carry on with, um, when that question comes to mind and you're like but you're helping to do these things, you're helping to like help people to get to the point where
Right.
they see the value in this thing. And so to me, it's a tremendous feeling, even in the smallest way, being able to do that. And I definitely look forward to do that even more going forward. Because at the end of the day, it's like it's a community thing. It's really about like how can you use this as an opportunity to empower a community, and then also like motivate others to even go
Right.
out and find creative ways of which how they can like add value to the market space. So yeah, that to me is a pretty big it's a pretty rewarding feeling.
Is it the same feeling as hiking in the mountains?
Hiking in the mountains alone in nature. Yeah, it's about the hike. But I would say that feeling also is very high on the list. I do enjoy hiking in the mountains. It is an interesting, relaxing way. I'm a very simple person. People wonder how I spend
Yeah,
my time. I'm very simple. I literally, I just
I'm
like,
sure you can tell.
yeah, I'm not fussed. Like when I was younger, I wanted all these different things, and eventually, at some point, yes, I probably do still appreciate a lot of those things, but more so than now, it's just like the simplicity of going out into the mountains and just hanging out with people and having cool conversations, and
Yeah,
it's a joy.
just the simpler things in life. But I noticed that you got your hands dirty in Guinea, West Africa. Do you still sometimes get your hands dirty in the production of your chips and your pancake mix?
Most never gonna not get your hands dirty for sure. As much as possible, I jump in there and show as much as I need to, like how to get something done. Uh, Good thing now, like one of the things we run into last year was kind of like some of these production limitations, and so we worked hard to kind of like fix those production limitation. Now we literally have like a team both with our strategic partners and with our team on the ground to kind of like take on a lot of those responsibility, and so we can more easily enough I can more easily focus on some of the other things. But whenever the need arises, I am 100% there.
I believe you, definitely.
Yeah,
So I would
it's
say it is obvious that you're a lover for people. You love people. How do you manage to keep that love and to share that love with people? I mean, being a businessman, being out there, meeting so many different people's different backgrounds and experiences, and with so many stories of betrayal and trust issues, you manage to keep that positivity. You manage to keep that love that you have for others. How do you manage to continue on that path?
well, part of it might be because I'm partially stubborn. Another part of it is, an- another part of it is that we define control a different way. Like if certain experiences cause me to not trust anyone or not believe in anyone because one person did this, then obviously I'm giving away my power to that next person, and I don't believe in giving away my power. And so I tend to focus on just the brighter side of life, and the side that's going to really like try to make a massive impact as much as possible. I can say a good portion of my friends now, we've been friends for like, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, maybe even more. Like even some of my childhood friends that I haven't seen for years, we'll just come together and like sit down and everything is like good to go. So I do have a large trust in people, one, and I try to like look for the better in people. I'm not I start to stay away from the judgmental aspect of life, and not like thinking everyone needs to be a version of me, because I understand I am me and I don't
Right,
need to create several me's. So that is something I would say that I take very, very, I try as much as possible when I have the opportunity to spend time with people. I try as best as possible to add value to them in that time I get to
right,
spend.
right.
So like when I go around, like I can remember the other day, for example, like I went somewhere, or one time I went somewhere and someone was like, hey JVN, like and something, and I was like, I couldn't remember her name, and she's like, oh, it's so and so, and I was like, oh, I felt like so bad about it, because I'm the kind of person, like if I walk into somewhere and if I met you, like I want to kind of remember like I met you, because I want to know that, you know you're as valuable to me as you might think I'm valuable to you.
Right.
And so we're like, we're on the same level. We're not like just like, oh, you should remember me and I should forget
And
you.
I don't know you.
No.
Right. That sounds to me like it's a great way of counteracting unconscious bias. And, I appreciate you for sharing that. Such an inspiring story that you're sharing with us tonight. It is obvious, though, that breadfruit has done so much for you. What are some of the accomplishments and experiences that breadfruit has brought to you?
Uh, I would say, well, it's great playing in a space where it's like, in a way, you're kind of like the ambassador in many ways. Like for example, like again, when I was in California the other day, and I, run into some folks, and they're just like, yeah, we've heard about you. Like we never met before personally, but we know each other from like different spaces. And someone would like walk up to you and be like, as if they know you because they've heard about the product, they've heard about like your story. And so it kind of helps with that. It kind of creates, in a way, sometimes in a way, kind of creates like this kind of it prepares people to see you, and so when you show up, it helps to kind of like create an image for you before you're even there, and so it
Right.
helps to open up doors in a way, that just like, yeah, it helps you to navigate more easily, and there's a trust factor built before you actually show up, because people have heard about some of the
Right.
things that you've done, and it's not fame, but it's just like there's like a level of like notoriety in a way where it's like, yeah, we kind of know like this person is doing something, like let's listen to him or
I
something.
like how you stress that. It's not fame. But what are some of the states in which we can find your products?
um I would say, so for right now, actually we're just at a meeting today, and looking to expand into some more of those, states. We've had deals in, where we get products in like New York. We had some people had it in New York. We had some people had it in like Florida. We had some people had it in like out here in Denver or here in Colorado. We kind of drew back a little bit on that while we're getting our production capacity up. And so now we're literally just like ramping up full scale, um, going forward. The only place, I would say, the only place that we have not sold a bag of breadfruit chips yet, from our standpoint is actually Alaska in as a
Oh,
state.
wow.
Um, as we speak right now, like in the morning here, I have a meeting with someone in, in Europe, that wants to carry the product over there. We got people in Canada who wants to carry the product over there. We got a few into Canada already, but nothing major, just a few samples here and there, so a few numbers. So we are still working on kind of like working out and ramping up that streamline of products. We got people from Puerto Rico who want, who say they want to bring the product to Puerto Rico. And so we have a massive interest, and now we're trying to like really build that into a supply chain that is not just like we send you just one box and then you can like try it on a shelf and then
Yeah.
see kind of how it goes. Like, no, we need to send you like a whole pallet, and then like you figure out how to come back to us every month or maybe every week.
I'm definitely in. All right, just remember to add me to that list somewhere along the line.
Okay.
But
Okay. Yeah, we're definitely going to be looking for some local people who actually want to do the work on the ground.
yeah,
So you definitely keep that in mind. Actually, it's funny. I had an interview in Australia the other day, and she was asking like, when can we get this product? How can we get this product here? And I was just like, it would be pretty hard to like, ship these products to like Australia. It just wouldn't have any margins on it by the time it reaches.
but
uh,
knowing you'll figure it a way.
But we're working on it. We're working on different strategies. We're working on different approaches how to get these products out. Because again, we have that brand, and it doesn't matter who want to come into the space. We still have that brand, and what we focus on, we really focus on, trying to be a positive impact to both our customers, both the planet, and just like being a great tasting product, simply ingredients. Those are our major focus, and so we just stay in our lane and just focus on the things that we want done, and we don't really focus on, if someone wanted to come around and try to pretend like they are something else or something that like that's not our focus. Our focus is to focus on the things that move us forward.
Definitely, definitely. I see you're an advocate for immigrant entrepreneurs. What does that mean to you? What does immigrant entrepreneur means to J Beyond Blake?
I would say immigrant entrepreneur, like as an immigrant, you are probably the most likely person to be an entrepreneur. Because if you think about it, if you go into a space like where you live right now, right, you look around and you see things and you're like, huh, these things could have been done differently. And so once you go into these states, once you go into these new places from where you're from, and you think about, what did I do back home? Who do I know back home that does that? And then are there people here who this thing could satisfy a need? Like, you're literally an entrepreneur at that point. All you need to do is get up and execute, right? And so I think because of those nature, that is literally one of the greatest untapped resources right here in the United States of America, is unleashing the creativity, the awareness, the local connections, and all of that an entrepreneur, that an immigrant brings into this country and has the ability to put on the marketplace, you know. And I think once we figure out how to really empower people to do that, then we don't have to focus on saying, what is our competitive advantage against this next person? Because I think a lot of time in America, what ends up happening is it's like, oh, I make potato chips, but I'm trying to go cheaper than Lowe's. And this back and forth, it's like, no, like, why potato chips? There's 500 different things you could use. Like, I just met the guy who started, we just had a brief conversation, started fonio, like from West Africa. And there's all these different things in West Africa. I mean, cassava is now becoming a thing, but
Sure.
I still don't think there's any cassava as good as a good bami with some steamed fish, but that's a different question. But there's some great cassava products out there. I just met a guy who started a company like he does West African product, like jollof rice. So now you can get jollof rice in like pre-packs. So there's all these opportunities. And guess what? Forbes just run an article that said Black immigrant products might be the next new American products because they are the fastest rising food cuisine in the
Wow.
So just talking about food alone, there's a massive on-top resource right here in the immigrant community. And I think once we figure out how to empower that, and how, because what I found out about immigrant entrepreneur is not the skill that's lacking.
Right.
It's not the abilities or capabilities that's lacking. it's the confidence to try.
Yes.
That is something that I see so many immigrant entrepreneurs falter with, because they feel like, my English is like I'm second language, and or
Yeah.
it's like, I am dark colored, and in this space is for like light colored people.
Yeah.
My hair is kinky, in this space is for like non kinky hair people, like all these different things. And I'm saying, welcome to America. Like, I
I like the
literally
way you
lived in
say that.
Montana. I lived in Montana, and growing up in Jamaica, you know how it goes. It's like, oh, your lip is big. They used to call me Lipo at one point in time, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you're so dark. Your skin is so dark. Blacky, blacker, whatever they want to. I went to Montana, and I saw a lot of white females who are like, oh my God, your
You're
lip
so
is so cute. Oh
yes.
my God, your skin tone. Can we
Yeah.
have a kid together? Like, literally, like, And so it's so funny to see the difference in perspective. Depends on where you are. And so it allows you to see things so differently. So
Yes.
all the things that you're thinking are your limitations, they can also be your assets.
Yes. I like the way you explain that. You explain that so well. I mean, I'm in awe as well, being exposed and having to experience different things, and what we believe were the minority for us became that one thing that we needed to tap into and to use at our advantages to get to where we need to be. And so I understand completely, and I agree with you completely, that as immigrants, we have the opportunity to be great in the land of America. Just like you said, you always say, welcome to America. So,
Yeah, yeah,
it's endless possibilities. That's just the two words I want to use to describe what it is. Just endless possibilities.
yeah,
Javion
for sure.
Blake, I want to ask you, because you're young, you're positive, you're thriving, you're successful, you're doing what you're doing, yet you were able to assist in the donations in over. I can't stop talking about that because that's truly inspiring. 350,000 US dollars in medical supplies to hospitals in Jamaica.
Yeah.
What is Project Cure?
So what Project Cure is an organization originally founded here. The founder actually lives here in Colorado, and is based here in Centennial, Colorado. The white organization, and what it does, it seeks to get medical equipments that are either being underutilized or were overproduced from manufacturers, and then try to figure out ways how we can best like get those to places that need them. And so by partnering with Project Cure to kind of like raise some of the funds to facilitate this shipment and also do some of the arrangement in getting the right people on the ground to buy into this program. Yeah, we were able to raise that $350 worth of medical equipment and also additional funding to be able to ship it off to Jamaica. And as we speak right now, we're literally planning. The assessors are on their way to Jamaica within the next few days. I think it's next Monday or so. That our Tuesday that they will be in Jamaica to actually look at the hospitals and see what are some of the most basic needs and figure out ways how we can give equipments that one will definitely work where they're supposed to work, two be of the most impact they possibly can positively, and also ensuring that what is sent is something that is needed in the most way possible, and just further developing that relationship, because that's something with life. It's always about building those relationships that are going to serve you now or going to serve you later. And so every time you get the opportunity to build a good relationship, I would say it's a great opportunity to use that to figure out how can you help folks, because it always fascinates me when back in the day you would hear of a politician or something who would be like, they got money to build a hospital or something,
Right.
but somehow they use the money to buy a Range Rover or something else. And I'm like, so when you get sick, what are you going to do? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. So
Yeah.
what I would like to do, I would like to make and help to make Jamaica the best that it possibly can. So every kid that grows up can go out and do a lot of things that I've been able to experience, and go from there and help 100 more, 1,000 more, and 3,000 more, 10,000, million more to do the same thing, and understand that community, the basic level of a community, is where it's at. It's not about you showing up to the community being the don and being the only guy in the community who can wear shoes, and you can feel good because you can wear shoes and everyone's going
Right.
barefoot, or your shoes cost this. And trust me, I tried a lot of those too when I was younger. But I think it makes sense when we actually can think from a community perspective. And that's why I went out with all the effort that I possibly could have garnered, with all the help of the strategic partner, with all the help of the donors, with all the help of the friends and everyone who chipped in and helped to make this possible, to do this, because I want to motivate all those people who have, some excess resources to go out and do this too. you know
Yeah.
and that's what I want to see. It's not just about me like propelling myself on a totem pole, or on a on this national platform. Like, no, I want other people to be on a platform too. I did 350. I know a lot of people in
Yes.
Jamaica who can do 3.5, right?
Yes.
Come, please outdo me. Do
Yes.
3.5. Like, I'll be on third. I'll just go sit on third and be happy with it, and seeing and give you thanks for putting that 3.5 or the 2.5, whatever the numbers are. So
Yes.
that's kind of how I look at it. It's like,
Yes.
let's compete. If we want to compete, let's compete to
That's
see who can
you know
make
what that
the
is.
country the
That's
best it can be.
exactly what greed is in sales. One person is doing it, another is going to do it. Two persons are doing it, a third is going to want to do it. So you're on the right path. And trust me, I'm inspired, I'm motivated, and when I get there, I will be doing it. I'm going to compete with you.
Great.
So,
Bring it on. Bring it on.
but you know what, too? Um, I've had my personal experiences in the hospitals in Jamaica. And so when I saw that story in the Observer, it did stand out to me. And, I felt something. I was a little sunken, and I appreciated you so much for doing that. I personally have friends and families who have had experiences in the hospital. And I can tell you that several years ago, in 2012, when I was supposed to have my first baby, I had to sleep on a chair
Wow.
for a whole night, and I had visitors that were coming in, and they were looking at me, and they were feeling all kinds of pity for me and all of that. And I was trying to stay positive the whole time, but seeing that you did that, I can only imagine the amount of sick people that you provided beds for. Because of you, they were able to get a bed tonight. You know what I mean? I can only think about the amount of lives that you have helped to save. And so that story really did stand out for me. And I want to say to you on this show tonight, JV and Blake, thank you on behalf of the nation. Thank you on behalf of our ill persons in the country. I want to say thank you so much for doing what you do. Thank you for inspiring. Thank you for motivating. Thank you for spreading love. Thank you for being the personable person that you are. We appreciate you, Jay.
I'm very honored, and I'm very grateful to hear that. I am very humbled. Thank you very much for sharing that. Because so often I feel like, when if I go out there and I say some of these things with the intention of trying to help, like, sometimes the story get lost because it just doesn't really connect as much, with reality. But you sharing that, I would say, I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. I don't want to only say thank you for doing what you do, but I also want to say to you thank you again for joining us tonight. Thank you for sharing your story with us. It's an honor. And every day I will remember you. I will remember some of the things that you said to me on this show tonight. And I will take it with me, and I will tap into my abilities, and I will remember that I have an advantage as an immigrant in the United States of America. And I will also imagine my obstacles as stepping stones. Thank you for joining us. This is Level Up.
Thank you. If that's the one thing I can take away from this, I am very grateful to hear that.